You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good team. Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Low Winter Sun After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Low Winter Sun After Show.
Hey guys, Bing is for doing, and we're here doing another Low Winter Sun After Show, Season 1, Episode 2, The Goat Rodeo. I'm here, I'm Stef Z, joined with...
Phil Svitek, just filling in this one time for Matt Lieberman and Ornia Lee.
Sweet. Yeah, they both couldn't be with us tonight, but we're here. We're going to talk some Low Winter Sun. A good episode. I'm becoming a fan of the show.
AMC is really good at these kind of dark dramas.
Yeah, and dark, twisty dramas where
Yeah.
they kind of don't want to give you all the information right away, which I like. Like, I like trying to figure out, like, who's
I
this
feel like an
person?
idiot. I mean, that's for me. That's, But, so we're going to try to dissect it.
We are going to try and dissect it. So we open up where we kind of left off last episode. There's a murder or, there's a homicide. Now that they're figuring out it's unfolding into more of a homicide. There was, a chopped up guy in the trunk, which was, trying to figure out if Brendan put him there, who he is, why he's there. So they're kind of dissecting that a little bit.
What I liked about, that scene was everyone kind of was on edge, and it was smart to say, hey, you know what? We're all tired. We're all irritable.
Yes.
So let's not take anything personal.
Yeah, that was very big of Frank to say that, knowing that he knows more information than everybody else in that tent.
Correct.
So I think that was a good step. I also like that, right away, I feel like there's an energy from Frank that he's trying to distance himself away from Joe.
Yeah.
Like, they walk away and, in front of the chief and in front of everyone, he's just like, you know what, you should go home. You look like shit. You should change your clothes. Just take a minute, regroup. And again, I feel like he's trying to do that to benefit himself. And so he's not attached to Joe at all.
Well, especially, as they're walking in, you have, the guy just kind of looking at them. Don't pull that jurisdiction crap. And,
Right.
He's kind of, so I feel, just not to get ahead of us, but even in the previews for next week, he's the guy kind of piecing stuff together.
Yeah.
And so it's a reaction to that.
Boyd, the internal affairs guy. That's who you're talking about? Yeah. He is. And I feel like even last episode, I felt like he was kind of on to there's a deeper plot here. There's something else going on here that we're not aware about. Like, I feel like he feels an energy between Frank and Joe. We'll see it again in the morgue a little bit later in the episode. And, he's kind of a smart dude. He sees that it's happening.
It's going to be interesting seeing that play out, especially since they introduced it so early on that it's going to be a fun, I don't think it can last the whole season. I think something's going to have to give. But, I think for the first half of the season, it's going to be a nice cat and mouse game between the two of them.
Right.
Until something happens to Boyd.
Yeah, I agree. So taking that, we go into Brendan's house. And I think I really loved how it was like pan across like award, Coke table, award, roll of money. You know what I mean? Like, it was really panning that he really was the good and the bad cop, which I thought was very interesting right away. And I don't know, I feel like a few of the cops knew that. It didn't come as such a shock, but it was, just played out in a way that was like, okay, we know this guy was dirty. And again, Frank is just like, I'm not letting Joe back until we find out what's going on with Brendan. He's really trying to be like, maybe Joe's involved, like keep him out a little bit. So I think it's a smart move by Frank, really.
It is, and that's actually a great dichotomy. I definitely noticed that, but not to the I never pictured it that way.
Right.
So I think and that's with AMC shows. They're just so great at kind of cinematography in general and taking their time in that and having fun with the visuals.
Yeah. And I also like how, again, Frank, it's almost like he's building his case so that if anyone ever thinks he's dirty, he can be like, but wait, like they'll question it, because he goes to the female cop, Kalihindo, I think her name is, if
Yes.
I'm pronouncing it right. And because in the previous episode, she had come over to the car and saw them interacting and talking in a way that she was a little bit suspicious of, or it looked like she was suspicious of. And Frank she didn't even ask again, but Frank went over and was like, just so you know what we were talking about, I accused Joe of being a dirty cop. And, he like offered up that information and it wasn't even asked for.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, a little interesting. So then we cut there and we cut to what I thought was a brilliant scene of Damon. And, we've got the Coke crew, Damon and them. And, one guy, I feel like the one guy who, I'm not sure of his name, his buddy, like his sidekick, he is feeling a little bit insecure. Like, maybe we should like take a minute, maybe we should wait 6 months, bury the Coke, and then come back to do some of this later. Like we start to see that there's a bigger plan happening with the bad guys, so to speak.
Ironically, it feels like a higher end version of Requiem for a Dream.
I don't know.
You never saw Requiem for a Dream?
didn't.
Marissa,
I'm
our
terrible.
engineer, you saw yeah?
Yes.
Well, anyway, for those of you who haven't seen it, check it out. It's a great movie, but it's very much about like aspiring to do more, but obviously in this sort of way.
Right.
And while they're a little bit better than the protagonists of Requiem for a Dream, they kind of remind me of just still being idiots deep down.
Right.
And this isn't going to come really to fruition. It's going to somehow, it's ironically going to hinder someone in the end.
Right. Yeah. I feel like they've got they've got the big master plan, but they're just building it on like quicksand. Is what it feels like a little bit.
It feels like I know this isn't a comedy show, but bear the improv with me. By the way, I'm not a comic by any means, and I don't know if Steph is or isn't. But it'd be like, dude, we should make $1 million. And then you say, that's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
Dude, we could sell something.
What are we gonna sell?
You're good at making T-shirts.
Let's
We can make it. Yeah, we'll sell 1 million T-shirts at $1 a piece, and we'll have $1 million. It's like that kind of mentality of the way you just
Right.
doesn't stop. And
Right. There's no big thought out
Yeah.
situation. Which during the end we do see that some of it is thought out to the extent where they know that there's certain people that they have to get on their side to make their operation go. But what I thought was a great scene was when they were questioning Damon's intentions and his timing and his plan, and he kind of tried to get Damon's wife Maya on his side, maybe thinking she would be a little bit fearful about the whole situation, and she kind of just handed it to him and was just like, 6 months ago you guys had nothing, pretty much is what she said to them. Which I thought was really brilliant, and it's just showing like Damon and Maya really are the power role, and there's a little bit of insight into Maya's past, which we don't know yet. But, there's a scene where Joe is in the bar.
that was a great scene.
Yeah. And he's just like, I'm paying for my coffee this time. So there's this web that we're trying to, unweave and figure out who's connected to who. But when Joe goes into the bar, he sees Maya and he puts the money on the table and he's like, no, I'm paying this time. So clearly there's a relationship there that he would come in, he would get served for free, they do some dirty business, and that would happen. And he's pretty much, trying to cover his back now and say, you don't know me, you don't have my number. So I think that there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of information, but not full stories yet, which is, you feel in the dark. I kind of like it a little bit.
It's, just a quick recommendation. See The Killing, also another show on AMC, and Marissa can attest to this because we used to do the after show. The pacing is very different. The Killing was much more slower, but there are remnants of that in this, in a good way, though.
Okay. Note to everyone out there. Okay, so we skipped around a little bit. Well, let's go back a little bit. We're still in Brendan's house, and there's two things that happen. First of all, with Boyd, what happens is how he, makes this remark towards duck hunting, which pretty much, as much as Frank wants him to go away, he's pretty much like, yeah, I'm going to wait this one out because I know that I'm going to be involved in this case somehow or another. So, it's cool, but
You ever
I'm
been
gonna be
duck
here.
hunting?
I have not.
You
I
have
used to play the
not.
game though on Nintendo.
Fair enough. It was just interesting to kind of, to figure out what the underlying symbolism for that is.
Just waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also the fact that, duck hunting, usually there's a flock of them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you kind of pick and choose which one you're going to go after, and which
Right.
one's
I like that one. I like that. I'll go with that one.
So, because it's not, I think in the end, he knows it's not just him.
Right.
There's a group.
Right.
And that's what duck hunting is all about. The flock.
The flock.
The ducks fly together.
Birds of a feather flock together, or whatever it's called. So that happens at the house, and then also at Brendan's house, which I'm still amazed at what happened last week in the play out of how they faked the cameras out and showing that like Brendan actually went back to his house when we know he never went there. And like when they were in the driveway, I was like, wow, they totally had it planned. They went in the driveway, he hid. That was just such a brilliant shot that it reminded me of. But I think a lot of stuff happened at Brendan's house, but the key thing that happened is Frank finding Brendan's cell phone and retrieving a voice message from Katya, and it just said yes. So what is that yes to is what is like the next piece of the puzzle. We keep getting more and more pieces of the puzzle. So we'll have to figure out what that, goes to. Any ideas?
No, because here it's like it's one word. It's so tough.
Right.
Had it at least been like 3 words to formulate like yes isn't even considered a sentence. You need a verb and a noun.
Yeah. And there wasn't much tone that was like there was no tone to read into. It was just kind of like yes, like a strong yes is what I felt. So Brendan's house, lots of stuff happened there. And then,
But here's the nice part about it. What I'm gonna love, when it clicks, it's gonna click.
Right.
Like just the fact that once kind of the things align, and we'll be able to see of just based off of, I mean, this would be the cliched moment to do it, where someone just kind of leans back in their chair and they cut to, the yes, and then everything just clicks in that moment of wow.
Right.
So the things we're about to see in the next coming episodes all align to that.
Right. And again, I don't want to jump ahead, but because, everything
But
is...
it's the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, you got it. You got to try and piece it together.
Here's the thing. It's not only the first 2 episodes. It's the first 2 episodes of
A
the series. And so everything's
right.
going to be, okay, what is going to happen next? Whereas if we had perhaps a season past, then we could judge.
Yeah, so for me, where I went to with that yes at the end was somewhat of a yes. She is, because we learn that there's a possibility she's still alive. And we learn that Joe maybe dropped her somewhere, and maybe she was trying to get to another place because however she got into whatever situation she was in, they were going to get her out of it. So I wonder if that yes was like it's a safe yes. Like there should be not enough time to trace a call, not enough time to do anything. It was just like, and if they had been talking in the past, he probably would see that would be her number that came up. So you kind of like when you get a voicemail on a phone, you see who it's from. Yeah. So you don't need to say like, Frank, it's Katya. Yes. You know what I mean? So maybe that was some underlying message like, yes, I'm safe, or yes, I see that these people have drugs, or yes, this, or yes, Joe's, you have enough information to set Joe up so that we're clear, or whatever was going on. There could be so much that was going on.
Those are all good theories.
I like them all.
I thought of all of them.
Yeah. So then let's talk about the morgue.
Okay.
So the morgue was a very, fascinating scene for me in a way, because I don't know that I've ever seen, a body just chilling without a head, which was, a little bit of an interesting something to see. And I like, again, that, Joe is still supposedly told to go do something else. And Frank is down there with Boyd from Internal Affairs. And, they're starting to think these theories. And it's kind of starting to become blatant that Frank's not a good liar. To me, at least, when he's like talking about...
Is it because dramatic irony and that...
It's because when he says... For me, it was a little bit far-fetched when they were talking about how the wrist was broken, and that if the wrist would have been broken when Brendan was still alive, there would have been internal bleeding. So because there was no internal bleeding, they could tell that the broken wrist was post-mortem. So therefore, to me, when he was like, well, is it possible that a ship could have came along, like a cargo boat could have came along and hit the car and jostled him enough to break his wrist that was already in a handcuff? To me, that was very far-fetched.
Okay. I mean, it certainly makes sense. I mean, I don't like thinking about that because it makes him a lesser character. You know what I mean? If he's
Right.
like the pinnacle of the show, I want him to be so strong that he's just on it.
Right,
You know?
but maybe he's so strong that he actually like in that he's a bad liar, it leads me to believe he can't be that dirty. He could still be a strong character. He could still be a good cop. But to me, it's like this all is revolving around the fact that he's looking at a guy that he knows he killed. So you know what I mean? Like he's bad on that spot, and then later in the scene, Joe comes in and is very aggressive about this was my partner for 4 years. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be part of this investigation, and they tell him the story again, and you can see like Frank looking at Joe like a couple times when they're telling him what's going on. Like, oh man, we screwed up. Like, oh man, like this wasn't going to happen. And I feel like you could see in his eyes a little bit the fear when they got down to the point where when Boyd comes in again and is like, we're going to have to let's test the water in his lungs, see if it's a match. Because even though in the first episode they specifically went not to one fish tank and went to the water, that they didn't think through that the water would have chlorine in it.
Well, that was the biggest, in terms of a bad liar, he said all-star work or something like that, you know, and just, you might as well have gritted your teeth and been like, you mother...
Right, like he's trying to overcompensate for something that he knows is not the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and I don't know what happens in those moments where a breakthrough like that happens. If Frank, if he was indeed happy the fact that this was found,
right?
But at least, be happier about it, or just kind of say, don't say that line, because that line, the way it was, he delivered again. It was just through gritted teeth.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it seems like he's not a good liar in that sense, where Joe is so straight-faced, like, well, how did it happen? Well, what do you mean? We got a double homicide. What's going on? Yeah. And Frank's kind of like, well, could it have been some, like, weird boat coming through and broke his wrist? Like, to me, that was a little bit showing that. But in the end of it, I feel like what I'm getting from that is that he's not a dirty cop, and he really got pressured into killing Brendan with Joe because he thought that Brendan killed Katya. So that there was this other motive rather than just being a dirty cop, or the motive that Joe's bringing to the table, that he might be involved in, this coke moving and money and this, that, and the other thing. Like, it was really just like a love driven, like, I've lost my mind because you killed my girl, so I'm going to kill you. Yeah. Which, isn't right or wrong, but I feel like in the scheme of the cop stuff, it might be a better ending for him.
And it's interesting to, in terms of Joe, how he's reacting to this whole thing, because, he's willing to go along with everything that he's told to do, but to the bare minimum. Right. So much so, as he comes back to his house, his mom's like, "Can I make you a patty melt?" No, I don't have time for that. Mm-hmm. But it's a patty melt. How long could it take? Well, that he just doesn't have that time, and he puts on the new suit, and then he's out. Because that's what it was about. It was change your clothes, rest up, whatever.
Right. Well, he also did something very important in the bathroom. He did some coke.
He did.
So that again just shows that he is doing coke, dirty cop. He's mixed up in, and it's almost like he had a stash there at her house. Because I didn't think he said he lived there. He said, to get this straight, it's my house. Maybe he did live there. But it seemed like he was, like, stopping through in the closet. It looked like there was only a couple of outfits, like, just in case. Or, I mean, maybe that's just the way that it is there with...
But either way, the line is interesting. Let's get it straight. This is my house. So,
yeah.
It's either he's living there or if he's not. But if he's not, then it's still cool to hear him, to his own mom, like, hey, you're living on borrowed time in my house. Yeah.
So, you know what? You can say all this, I should eat my patty melt and stuff, but, like, I'm paying the rent, so I don't need to eat the patty melt if I don't want to eat the patty melt. It's pretty much what I got.
And I think it's his mentality, I'm sure in a lot of his sort of ventures. He likes to be the alpha male.
Right. Yeah. No, I can definitely see that with his character. So then, and you see that Joe's he's kind of starting to piss people off too in other places. Like, he's pissing off Calijo. How do you say it again? Caliendo. Officer Caliendo, because he's supposed to be there investigating the murder of who Damon shot last week over drugs and helping her find stuff, and he never shows up. So he clearly isn't doing, she's getting pissed off, which again, that I think showed, which is kind of cool. Another really powerful woman scene is when they go to the liquor store, and clearly she can speak the language that the owner of the liquor store can speak. And she was like, you look at me. I'm not your sister. I'm not your mother. I'm going to help you. And I think that was a very, there's two situations in this episode that were very empowering for women, which was Maya, and I'm not trying to be some feminist nothing or other, you know what I mean?
No,
I'm
but
just
it's still
saying,
it's still great to see, because I think especially in these sort of types of whether movies or TV shows, the women don't really have a place, and it's great because to a degree, I guess they're not going to be expecting her to do much,
right?
And the fact that she could be, she could attack the proverbial Achilles heel because they're not expecting it.
Right.
I think they're setting up something big.
Yeah, I think they're definitely setting up something big there that's going on, which is kind of cool. And then there's lots of scenes either at the police station, crime scenes, or the bar. Really is where we're going so far. And again, there's a scene at the bar with the guy who was in the military, and he's suffering the post-traumatic stress syndrome, and he's last episode he says that all he really knows how to do is kill. So of course when I heard that, it's you think a bulb goes off, and they're like, we want this dude on our team, and he's protecting Maya in a way. The sleazy guy sits down next to her, and he orders a Hennessy, I think it was. Yeah. And how he puts the money close to him, so she has to lean in so he can get a cleavage shot, and the other guy sees the whole thing, and he just knocks him out pretty much.
Well, it didn't help that he also said nice piece of ass.
Well, he did say that too. He did, which is a little bit sleazy.
That's a little over.
Yeah. So he's only communicating through he hasn't spoken yet.
No.
Actually he did. He spoke when he was working on the pipes, and he wanted more than $15.
Okay, yeah, which that was a
crazy scene as well.
It was crazy, but the fact that he's kind of accounting for everything that he's doing, and and is able to stand up in that way, because it's how much do I get paid and whatnot, and it's okay, no, based off of that, I think it's $17.50. That's what you owe me.
Right, but he was super crazy in the way that he said it. He was I got here at 2:00 with a pipe in his hand. I got here he's going to pipe somebody over $2.50. But again, to me, I'm not quite sure exactly when this takes place. Have you got 80s maybe? So pretty much this, when's the last time? But why I'm confused is because Detroit now is a bankrupt city. It is so run down. So it's possible that people there are working off the books for $5 an hour because there's nothing else available. You know what I mean? So I feel like the things that are happening, and maybe it wasn't meant to be that way, that after this, this series got shot, and then, a couple months ago they declared Detroit bankrupt. So I think that might be messing with our timeline a little bit.
Possibly. I mean, it feels present day to me, regardless. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I don't know Detroit that much, but it doesn't feel very Detroit centric. Right. I mean, they're using a few backdrops here and there, but I don't know if it's come into play too much. Fans, if you're from Detroit and listening, let us know. I'm curious about that because I don't know. It hasn't fully come into play, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, I've been to Detroit. The most recent time I was there was a couple, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. A friend of mine was shooting a movie there. And it did look very, it would literally be building, rundown building, building, rundown building. It felt very, I don't know, not that I completely disagree, but I feel like it does feel very Detroit. It's gangs and not gangs, but it's drugs and prostitutes, and people are a desperation of how we're going to do something, anything is for me the feeling that I grasp from it all, rather than the look or whatever.
Okay.
But it's just... So
it's a mentality based off of your environment. Okay, I could see that.
Yeah. But again, speaking of our viewers, thank you guys for watching so much. We appreciate your comments. Go to iTunes.
Yeah, we're a
download
brand new
us.
show, you
Yeah,
know.
I
So
know. Give us some love. Tell us what you want to hear about. Tell us what you don't want to hear about.
that's right. When you go on there and there's only like 5 comments, don't automatically
Don't
assume it's
feel
because we suck.
scared.
It's like, you know what? No, we just started.
Yeah, leave 2. If you see 5, leave 2. If you see
Yeah.
10, leave 3.
You know, so definitely rate and comment. I know a lot. The good news is a lot of you have been downloading the podcast, but again, just get those comments up there, and also the most important I feel is just spread the word. It's a brand new show, so not only are you helping the show, but also you're helping us because now you're spreading about AfterBuzz.
And this is right.
Because you can't listen to AfterBuzz without watching the show.
No, you really
It's a
can't.
2 for 1.
We kind of spoil it for you if you do. If you listen to us, you kind of don't really have to watch the show.
I think it's spoiled, but then I also think it's like, what the hell are they talking about?
Right. Well, again, that's because, I mean, I'm on other shows as you are, and it's like there's usually a little bit more of, an outline to how we talk about things. But this one, there's just so much going on. It's so fun. And while you guys are there, you guys can also, the creators and producers of AfterBuzz, Maria Menounos and Phil Undergaro, did a movie called Serial Buddies.
Phil Undergaro, I'm
Oh
Kevin
my God.
Undergaro's
Kevin
son. now.
Undergaro. I'm fired.
Fair enough. No worries. No, it's a lot of, and I will say a lot of people here at AfterBuzz TV actually were involved in this movie,
Yeah.
like cast members, crew, all that.
That's awesome. It's kind of like, if you guys wonder, like, Serial Buddies, what is it? It's kind of like, picture Dexter and Dumb and Dumber together.
There you go. And it's got a great cast: Artie Lang, Henry Winkler, Kathy Lee Gifford, Beth Bayers from Two Broke Girls, Maria Menounos, of course, Christopher Lloyd from Back to the Future, Christopher McDonald from Happy Gilmore,
Gigawatts.
of course. And so it's nice, as you're watching this intense drama, you might want to take a break. So just watch that.
Lighten it up a little bit.
It's available on demand. It's available on iTunes. It's available on lots of platforms. So just go to serialbuddies.com if you can't find it.
Sweet. Okay, back to Low and Just Done. So something else about the morgue that we don't find out right away is that there's still this question of who is this chopped up body, which later we come to find out is one of Boyd's informants. He had someone in already trying to pretty much suss Joe out. Like, they thought that Joe was a dirty cop to begin with. And that comes to Frank's surprise. A very big surprise, because he's like, what do you guys want with Joe? Like, what does he have to do with the investigation? And Boyd's like, Joe is the investigation. So I think that's a turning point too. And Frank's kind of now like, oh shit, this is even more. Now I'm completely now intertwined with this guy that Internal Affairs is investigating.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show that this, like with the whole setting up of the business side for our kids over there, this wasn't fully planned out,
Right.
And that's what I like about it is, again, it would be interesting if Frank was kind of a more all-knowing person, but I feel like that's the stereotypical route. So this is
Right.
good that it's kind of going against the norm. Where because here's the irony: he's a strong built guy,
Right.
and typically you have. They would set it up where you have strength, intelligence, all these different things. And so the fact that, he's kind of stumbling along with the audience is making for an interesting show.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. I think it's a very interesting show right away. And I'm definitely sucked in.
And if there was any hint that, that Frank isn't as bad, I think ultimately he will become more, based off his situation and not wanting to get caught.
Yeah, he has to. He has to
He
now
can only
kind
go
of play the
down.
game.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, he can only go down. But I feel like the girl cop Calahendo that's not her name.
So I'm sorry. There's an officer named Caliendo.
There's two that's names sound very similar.
Her name is, let's call her Danny.
Danny.
That's her first name.
There we go, Danny. I do think even from last episode too, I feel like she's got a sweet spot for Frank. So him confiding in her that he was already thinking Joe was dirty, I feel like in some way, shape, or form, she's gonna play a big part in keeping Frank out of trouble.
Yeah. I could see that.
So we'll definitely have to see how that unfolds. And then we go to, we cut to a scene of Damon and his crew and Maya going to, I guess what is going to be this this prostitute house. They're walking through, seeing how many, rooms they could have, seeing how many girls they can do, seeing what tricks they could turn, seeing how much it's going to cost. And they kind of figure out that at this point, they're not going to have the cops on their side. So they need to go talk to, what was his name? Reverend, what's his name?
I'll look him up.
Okay. But they know that, like, they could be teetering on somebody else's turf is pretty much what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, which I think is a very, we cut to this scene of them all walking through being like, we're going to make 20 G's a week to, showing up at this house, which I think was a very funny scene. Clearly it was a predominantly black house. And, it was like they walked in and they were like, everyone, hold your stuff. The white people are here. They're going to steal your stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I thought it was a very interesting way that they greeted them to come into their home, pretty much, with their kids running around, having a barbecue, everything like that. So, they're there, and Damon's trying to explain how they're just going to start running, a little operation on the other side of town. They offer him a bag of Coke to, like, here's a peace savings, like, and right away he's like, how often are we going to get this from you so we don't shut down your operation? Excuse me. And he's like, this is a one-time thing. And he's like, oh, it must be a really small operation. So I feel like, did you get that guy's name?
I did not. I'm trying to look. I'm trying to identify the face on IMDb.
Okay. Well, anyway, I think it was like Reverend Lowdown, and there was Papa T was there. So there was a lot of, clearly those are the guys that have been running the turf, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, I feel like they've gotten the okay that they can try and do this. So I feel like we're going to see in episodes to come more.
Reverend Lefevre.
Lowdown?
Lefevre.
Okay. Reverend. So we need to get the Reverend's permission, pretty much is what's happening. Which also kind of goes back around to, well, no, it doesn't. That's totally left. But so there's a lot going on. But you can tell who runs what. You're beginning to realize, like, okay, in order to get this done, we have to ask X, Y, Z, or we're going to get it set up and it's going to get shut down. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have the dirty cop helping us, so we need to do this. We need to have this much space around, which is really interesting the way that they're thinking about that. And I agree with you that there's big holes in this plan. So I'm kind of interested to see how it unfolds.
Yeah, I mean, it just gives multiple points of entry for, which I think Boyd's going to be the biggest kind of guy to kind of uncover all these different. He's going to be the driving force to do all these different things.
Yeah, quietly from the back, it looks like from now, but he's going to just start walking right up into the front, I think.
Yeah.
So, and then one of the biggest things in closing the episode, we see Frank go back to Katya's crime scene, pretty much her last known whereabouts, and we see him sitting there and he's thinking, and then all of a sudden Joe arrives again, and he just right away puts his gun in Joe's face, and he's like, tell me what happened. Is she dead? And he's, beginning to realize that she's probably not dead. And they have a really interesting fight scene, which Frank was completely overpowering. And I don't know if Joe is letting that happen a little bit or not, because he knows what's been going on. And he knows that he's in the know, but Frank clearly is pretty pissed. And, he's like, would this blood on the wall match Katya's blood? And, when he starts asking specific questions like that, that's when I feel like Joe is kind of like, at first he lies and he's like, she's dead, man, she's dead. And then he's more so trying to, like, he understands that Frank's not going to take that as an answer and that Frank knows. Mm-hmm. So he, finally tells Frank that she's not dead. He says he doesn't know where he was. You can go looking, but they're only going to find the both of us, which I thought was very interesting too. He's definitely leaving it as like they are clumped together. Yeah. They are, they are one. So if Frank, if you go do this, you're taking me down, and if I go do this, I'm taking you down, which I think Frank is not happy about at all. I don't think he wants to be intertwined with Joe at all.
No, and as we've kind of pointed out multiple times, he's trying to distance himself. And again, Joe. So if the two biggest goals of them is, okay, Frank distance himself, Joe, we stick together in this.
Yeah.
You know, because that's, again, just by the fact that Joe found Frank there, you know.
That makes me think that Joe is a lot dirtier than we think right now. Like, did Joe kill the informant? Or did Brendan kill him? Who killed him? Who do you think? You know what I mean?
I think Joe. They're setting up Joe to be more than we expected, like you said.
Yes.
And to what extent, I don't know. But the fact that they've already revealed all these strong aspects about him at such an early stage is he's playing cards close to his chest.
Right. And do you think that it trickles up, this dirtiness of cops? Like, do you think the chief knows anything that's going on?
Possibly. There's definitely an element of corruption to who. I mean, someone at a higher level has to know about something. Now, you know, it may be a character we have yet to meet. It may be a character that we've met in passing.
Well, that's the thing, too, because they are, like, it's almost a clear setup that Joe is very dirty. So I feel like a way to keep it interesting, you know, would be that not only is Joe dirty, but he's been getting away with his dirtiness because maybe the chief's dirty, or maybe, you know, someone that we haven't seen a lot of is dirty. Like, I feel like there's not just one. Clearly, Brendan was dirty, Joe was dirty, and how are they both getting away with it? I mean, or maybe that's just me being naive and thinking that the system couldn't be that corrupt. But I mean, I'm sure it exists.
Yes, indeed. And then the place gets lit on fire.
Pretty much. Which, the only thing, you don't see Joe, you don't really see Joe grab his gun, but then the last shot shows you that you see the dresser without a gun on it. Mm-hmm. So at first, I was kind of like, oh my God, they're going to find his gun. But then you don't, maybe not. I feel like that was a little...
Yeah, that might be reading too much into it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, that's what we're supposed to do.
Perhaps. And with that ends the episode.
Yeah, pretty much that ends the episode. So we can go, I feel like there's a little predictions that we can have.
Let's do it.
Let's move on into predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
What I liked about the segments that we got to see was, again, for a cop show, and an AMC show in particular, things are moving really fast.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, I mean, again, take The Killing, take Mad Men, take Breaking Bad. Usually things develop over a long period of time, and they're great in their own way. But I think they're borrowing some archetypes from those different shows, and now, because we're used to them, they can speed shit up.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic.
I know. I like the fast.
And, you know, obviously Frank's going to... You know, there's something, no one else is going to pay for what we did, I think is his line.
Right.
And I think that's part of it is they miscue us in so many different ways, but it's going to be interesting to see how that comes into context.
Yeah, because they're going to have to, like, if it's not them that did it, someone's going to have to be responsible for it. Yeah. So I agree. I feel like Frank and Joe are going to go back and forth a little bit of, like, Joe convincing Frank to, like, not say anything, and then Frank having this internal battle that, no, this isn't the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. I feel like Frank, you know, will mess up one or two times with effort to see Katya or to inquire more. Like, I don't think he's just going to be able to leave that alone. Which we'll see what happens.
Especially after, tonight.
Yeah, like, he knows she's alive. And then I think, you know, we'll see more about the prostitutes, too. See what happens.
Of course. And you will not be seeing me next week because you'll have your two other fantastic co-hosts joining Stef Z.
All right, thank you guys so much for listening. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at IAMSTEFZ.
And you can follow us here at AfterBuzz TV, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You know, it's been a pleasure joining Stef Z. But again, your main host will return. I was just filling in. But, I enjoyed your opinion and I learned a lot.
Sweet. Have a great night, guys.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.